This video, Fibanaaci series calculation using a recursive approach. The formula is f of n equal to f of n minus 1, f of n minus 2. Here f of 0 equal to 0, f of 1 equal to 1. I want to tell you here one thing. Fibanaaci series is summing of the previous value and current value, producing the next value. And for the next iteration, second value will become first value, third value will become second value, and again sum of those two values produce the next value. You can see the example 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34. How this result was produced? You need to add 0 plus 1 equal to 1, 1 plus 1 equal to 2, 1 plus 2 equal to 3, 2 plus 3 equal to 5, 5 plus 8 equal to 3 plus 5 equal to 8, 5 plus 8 equal to 13, 18 plus 13 21, 13 plus 21 34. Now that's how the result will be produced. So what I am doing here, I am going to create a simple Fibanaaci method which takes a parameter of integer value. What I am doing here, if n less than or equal to 1, return n. Let's say if you are passing a 1 value, then it doesn't do anything. It will just return simply that value. We don't need to do anything if you pass 0 and 1, right? If you pass 0, right, it will return the 0 itself. If you pass 1, it will return the 1 itself. So you should not pass 0 or 1. Other than these two values, you should have to pass other value. That is the logic of the first code snippet here. You can see here. This is the code snippet that is telling the thing. But other thing is, let's say you pass the number 10 for this method. You are going to pass the number 10 value. Then how this works, you see. I am going to loop. I am going to take a for loop. I less than n, I plus plus. I am going to call this Fibanaaci method each time. What it will do, you see, if I pass 0, what happens? 0 less than or equal to 1, what happens? Then it will return 0. If I pass 1, then it will return 1. And I am going to, for the next iteration, it will be 2. For the 2, it won't go there. It will be calculated like this. Then 2 minus 1 equal to 1. Right? 2 minus 2 equal to 0. So you can see here. So function calls itself. So here I pass it 2, then 1 plus 0. Okay, internally what it will do, it will actually calculate that. You see here n minus 1. So what is the value there? Fibanaaci of 1, function of 1. So then what happens? It will return a 1 itself. Okay, then what we are going to do, Fibanaaci of n minus 2, 2 minus 2, 0. So it will return a 0. So I am going to return again 1 plus 0, right? So Fibanaaci, it is a recursive method. Basically what is happening, it will work based on this formula, f of n equal to f of n minus 1 plus f of n minus 2. Okay, so that's how it works. It implicitly calls this method multiple times, the number of times you are going to invoke it. So ultimately it will calculate this number and it will give us the result. Okay, so this is how the recursive method will work. A function calls itself is called a recursive method. The function is calling itself is called a recursive method. Okay, I hope you got the thing here. I'm going to pass 3. Let's see what happens. If you pass 3, 3 minus 1, 2. And 3 minus 2 equal to 1. 2 plus 1, 3. Then 3 will be printed. I'm going to pass 4. So 4 will be passed. 4 minus 1 equal to 3. 4 minus 2 equal to 2. 3 plus 2, 5. 5 will be calculated. I'm going to pass 5. And what happens? 5 minus 1 equal to 4. Plus 5 minus 2, 3. So 5 minus 1, 4. 5, 4. No, it's not going to work like that. Let's deep dive this recursive method. Explain Fibanaaci recursive method in Java. Detailed. Straightforward method is very easy. The logic is very easy. Recursive method, understanding the recursive thing is very difficult. Okay, we need to understand how it works. See, function call. When Fibonacci n is first called, then it checks the base case. If n is greater than 1, then it calls Fibonacci n minus 1 and Fibonacci n minus 2 and waits for the result. The function keeps calling itself the smaller the value until it hits the base case where n is 0 or 1. At this point, recursive stops. Okay, we'll see some other example. Let's check the gigs per gigs here. This is a straightforward method. Fibonacci recursive approach. We need to see. So n minus 1 plus n minus 2 is the approach. So the function what I am doing, n minus 1, n minus 2. So let's say they have given a number 3. Okay, for 0, here you see the correct example. First we are passing the 0. Then what it will do? It will return a 0 itself. We are passing 1. Then it will return a 1 itself. We are passing 2. Then 2 less than or equal to 1. It is a wrong, right? It is a mismatch. So it will go to the recursive call. Return Fibonacci of n minus 1. That means 2 minus 1 plus Fibonacci series fib of 2 minus 1 means fib of 1 for first function plus 2 minus 2, 0, fib of 0. So what does the fib of 1 return? It will return 1 plus 0. 1 plus 0, it will return 1. So finally it will print 1. You see here. And then number 3. What happens here? Number 3. You see, 3 less than n. It is a false, right? In for loop condition mismatches. For int I equal to 0, I less than n means there it will give a false. Because 3 less than 3 is a false statement. So hence it won't go to the loop. Which is why the last thing is 0, 1, 1, 1. So that is the better example here. Fib of n minus 1, fib of n minus 2. Got the point, right? So the same thing you can apply here. Fib of 1 minus 1, fib of n minus 2. You see, we are going to take number 3. Number 3 how? Here it will go 3 minus 1. What happens? 3 minus 1 and fib of 2. Fib of Fibonacci of 2 means what happens here? Again it will call that. Fib of 2 means again 2 minus 1. 2 minus 1, 1. 2 - 0. Okay, so the logic here is the function calls itself until it becomes a zero value. So internally it will call multiple times until it becomes a 0 or 1. Getting my point, right? So that's how this value will be calculated. So this is a kind of recursive approach. So all I want to explain here in explaining the logic, how you can implement the logic. If you are studying engineering, right, how do you implement the logic? How do you write a logic? There is a problem statement. How are you going to implement the solution? How do you bring the solution using a programming language? There can be lot of computations. How do you compute the logic? What kind of logic you apply there? So you can write a logic in different ways. You can write a logic in different ways, but how do you bring the best possible solution that takes a less time? That is nothing but complexity. We call it as a time complexity. Okay, so space complexity times time complexity, you heard these things. If your logic is taking lot of time, there is a problem in the solution, right? You should not implement that. Okay, this is just an example how you are doing it. Okay, but the thing is, how do you bring the best possible, which can take a less time complexity, less space complexity? You can actually, which approach you chose to implement a logic. So basically this kind of thinking is nothing but analytical thinking, logical thinking. Okay, so this is how you have to implement the program or something like that. If you want to see, you can also see some other examples I can explain you, but for now these are enough. I can explain you later with a different example. Okay, thank you.